All right, all right. Welcome to the very first episode of Rolling Through Schitts. You probably think I'm cursing, but I'm not. That's actually the name of the show, Schitt's Creek, spelled Schitt's. So you do not have to put the kids to bed or move them out of the way because we're not cursing. We're discussing a very great cult following, and I got a great panel here with us today, and we're going to actually start with the other male who is joining me today, and let me introduce himself and tell you a little bit about why he loves Schitt's Creek, and that is my co-supervisor at Wrigley Field, Kyle. Kyle, what's up?
Hey everybody, this is Kyle Walkbost here. I appreciate getting asked to join the panel for this because I absolutely adore this show. So I found this during the pandemic. I had never heard of it prior to it. Being stuck inside for a year, you go through Netflix as often as you can trying to find something. Although I do have a couple more preferred methods of watching, such as Paramount Plus. But as I was watching it, I started gravitating towards things that weren't American shows. So some Canadian ones, some Australian ones, and the CBC had Schitt's Creek, and it was ranked, up in number 1, number 2, and figured I'd give it a shot. I love how family oriented and how quirky the show is. Like, I love a good dry humor and also a very zany, quirky humor. And that's exactly what Schitt's Creek is to me. Each of the episodes is super well written, and I love the fact they didn't jump the shark and they decided to end it when they could on a high note with well-crafted writing without really pushing it towards the edge. But the fact that you can laugh and also see all of the familial aspects and how that family grows over the series itself, as a family man, that's the reason why it just resonated with me and why it's got such a good rewatchability to it.
Okay, all right. So the next two I want to introduce actually spent the whole weekend with me, basically. And the first one did a great arts and craft job with some clipboards that I didn't even know were possible. And then the second one, did an amazing job with our newlywed game cards and things like that. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mary. Introduce herself, why she watches the show, followed by Elise.
All right. Hi, guys. My name's Mary. I also found the show during the pandemic. And the funny thing is that I heard everybody raving about this show. So I thought, all right, I'm going to give it a try. Well, after like 2 or 3 episodes, it just wasn't grabbing me at first. So I kind of put it away. And then, I don't know, a month or so later, people started talking about it again. And they were still raving about it. And so I commented about how I just couldn't get past the first couple episodes. And a lot of people said the same thing. They said, just keep going, keep going. So I said, all right, I'm going to try it. Well, sure enough, by about episode 5 or 6, man, I was hooked. And I think I blew through all 6 seasons in like 2 weeks or something. It was crazy. But I love the one-liners. They're just so funny, and you can relate to the stories, and it's hysterical. It just makes you laugh, and we all needed a good laugh last year, and it was lighthearted humor. There wasn't anything too heavy in the show, so it was great. I loved it.
Okay, all right, Elise.
Yeah, I'm Elise. And yeah, actually, Mary, I remember that conversation. I'm like, Mary, just keep going, try a few more. We actually watched it, I think, pre-pandemic. We definitely weren't in the first round of people, but we had gotten through the first 5 seasons, and season 6 wasn't out yet. And then I discovered it on demand on Pop Network before it even came out on Netflix. So we saw it, and we My husband and I just loved it. They're short, quick episodes. They're witty. It's like they're functional, but they're dysfunctional. But when you think about it, you've got 4 grown adults living in these 2 little hotel rooms, and I can't even imagine living in 2 little hotel rooms with my parents at that age. And then Annie Murphy, Alexis on the show, she's just with her hands all the time. I just loved all the characters. They just cracked me up. And she was like spacey, but she was smart. And Moira is just so dramatic. And just the whole cast was just like perfectly cast. It was incredible. And even now, when I was preparing for this, I was rewatching it, doing housework yesterday, and I'm laughing, and my husband's still working from home. It's like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, I'm watching Schitts again. It's so funny. And you can just keep watching it over and over and pick up at episodes. It really doesn't matter where you pick it up from. It's just great. And you watch the whole thing once through, and then just keep watching it because you'll just laugh. It's just good. It's good, light humor, function, but dysfunction. And I don't know. We couldn't stop watching it. We loved it. We did.
Okay. So the next person I actually met at a conference in North Park University that I was at, a women's conference, and then I followed her on Facebook, and I've been following her ever since. She doesn't even know it, but I have been. Followed by somebody from Wrigley Field who you all have not seen in a while, actually. So Allison, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. My name is Allison, and I actually, this is going to show my age. I don't look as old as I am, but am a huge Christopher Guest fan. So Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, anything they're in together, I am in. And I found Schitt's Creek. Netflix actually recommended it to me almost as soon as they had it available for streaming. I too, like Kyle, I love dry wit. I love Canadian shows, British shows. And I mean, I was just dying. Being that I'm from a really small, rural, in the middle of nowhere town, I can relate. Like, one of my favorite things about the show is how anything fancy is in Elmdale. And I can relate to that because if you want to get coffee, if you want to go to the nice salons, you've got to go to Quincy or Hannibal. So a big part of that for me is just watching how they relate. I love too how Moira and Johnny, the parents, it's like their second chance to parent their children who are grown adults. They're in their 30s. And I love all of these moments where they're trying to parent them again and give them this advice that they just really have no grounds of making. But my favorite, it's so hard for me to have a favorite on the show. I tell anybody I talk to, it's nearly impossible for me to say I have a favorite character. However, Moira Rose and her weird wackadoo vocabulary. I mean, if you do nothing else, go Google and find some YouTube clips of her and her vocabulary. It'll have you in stitches. But here's what I can tell you about small towns. We've all got somebody that does it. We've all got a Bob from Bob's Garage. The beauty in the show is in the details, the setting, the background characters. They're just brilliant. You're going to find people that you know who fit every one of those molds. And that's one of my favorite. That's really why I just love the show. I almost feel like they're my friends and family.
All right, and hello, Maggie.
Hello. I'm Maggie, and I started watching this before all of you, maybe because I'm the oldest in this group here, huh? I'm going to try to do Moira now. I had Pop TV on whatever device I was going with at the time, and I saw that it was Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, who, if you need something else to watch, you should watch old SCTV TV shows. You'll see all the famous people now who are in that starting out, and they're just wonderful. And I knew in all of the Christopher Guest movies, that's Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. They play couples in a lot of the shows too. So they work beautifully together. Then I saw that it was written by Daniel and thought, okay, this has got to be something. So I started in the beginning, and I hated those people. They were so obnoxious. And I'm like, oh, they're awful. And then now that's my thing that I tell everybody, you're going to hate them. You're going to hate them. until maybe 2 or 3 episodes in, and then you start to see them. And you see their development, mostly as the parents. The children grow as adults and learn to love and be great people. But the parents finally learn how to be parents. And it's beautiful. And it took losing all that money to do it. So I was from the very beginning. So, and I just finished the last episode, The Wedding, Happy Endings, an hour ago. I know, I'm crying and I'm laughing at the same time. It's so unbelievably well written that you're crying and you're laughing. It's so good. So good. So that's my take.
Okay, all right. And this last panelist here, I don't know why, whenever I see her at Really her hair, I think of Jessica Rabbit. I don't know why, but let me welcome everybody to Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie.
Hello. Thank you so much for including me. And thank you for the compliment. I don't aim for Jessica Rabbit, but I'm not mad about having that come up for you. Well, I'm one of the people that I refused to watch it. I like Allison. I'm going to show my age with this. I grew up, but as an adult, I discovered the humor of, the Christopher Guest movies, and every single time, and because I'm a really character-driven watcher, so every single show or movie that these people are in, there's such quirky, full, absolutely developed characters. Before you don't have to wait long for that to happen. And typically Dan or the father, Johnny, he always plays somebody who's super quirky, and you have to kind of reach to find him likable. But once you do, it's how could I ever have not? And watching this, when I finally gave in and was like, all right, fine, I'll watch it. And I did, and just like Allison and everybody else, first two episodes, I was like, oh God, this is gonna be mind numbing. And there were funny things, but it was how can this be a whole, movement? And got past those two, and all of a sudden there was this glimmer of how brilliant those characters were and how they reflected us as a society, which is weird, but and I fell in love with it, and I did the whole binging thing and watched it in probably 2 weekends. And bawled and laughed, and I wish I hadn't taken so long. I have a kind of a long list of those things, but yeah, I wish I hadn't taken so long to get to it.
Now for me, so I actually watched maybe 2 episodes when it first came out, and it didn't do anything for me, and I just stopped altogether. But I kept hearing about it during the pandemic. I'm like, this can't be the same show that I saw before that I thought was horrible, but everybody kept raving about it. So I decided, okay, fine, everybody's talking about it. Maybe it's a different show. So I went back and go and look and see. And it was this, I think I was watching on Crackle, I'm not sure, but one of those, it wasn't a main site, but one of those small little streaming sites. And I went back to it. I'm like, let me get through season 1. I got through season 1. It was okay. But my God, as it started getting on, next thing you know, I was watching it all day. I was not watching any other show. Come home, watch it, go outside, watch it. And I've been falling in love with it. One of those shows that I can watch over and over again on the airplane, wherever I'm going. And I just love it. And because of the character. So what I want to ask next is, we're gonna go around and talk about, we're gonna just pick any character and a scene that stood out. And we may have some of the same scenes, and that's okay. We can do that. But for me, I think it has to be the proposal. Oh no, well, the Simply the Best. God, it's hard to pick. It's hard to, I think. Yeah. Maybe I'll come back. Let me go to. I like that Simply the Best. I was almost crying. I don't. In that kind of a scene, you wouldn't think that I would be crying, but when he sang Simply the Best in the store, that was pretty cool. But let me go to Elise. Elise, a character in a scene that stood out to you.
So since I thought we were going to be, talking about season 1 mostly today, I rewatched season 1 because I watched this so long ago. So the one episode that sticks out in my mind so much is when one of Stevie's, and we haven't talked about Stevie at all because she's really not part of the family, but she is part of the family.
Yes.
I love Stevie. Talk about dry humor. She cracks me up. Anyway, there was an episode where someone in her cousin's stepfather died, and there's a funeral in town, and they pull up to the hotel, and they're just complete trailer trash. I completely forgot about this episode, so I'm glad I watched it. And bottom line is Stevie and David get so stoned, they end up sleeping together. And as you know, how his character develops later on, you forget that they had this relationship to start their friendship. And the two of them just stoned together. I was cracking up. And that I now that I look back at some of those first episodes, having watched the whole season, you see them in a completely different light. And I love that. I love Stevie in those scenes. She was great. I loved it.
I think now I remember my favorite thing, I think probably from season 1 probably would be the town sign. Because you have the guy bending over and the woman, in the either fishing or in the lake, and it looks like they're in an inappropriate, setting, and the people in the town, they don't see anything wrong with it. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. They're related," and it just made it worse. So I just thought that was just hilarious to me.
And then they put the sign up. It's not their mother; it's their sister or something.
Yes. All
Yeah.
right. Kyle's up next.
Oh, as I was watching through all the seasons, and then I went through my second and then my third cycle of it, I'd say probably season 6, episode 11. That was the bachelor party one. And I love just the very zany take that they took at it. So one of my favorite characters in the entire show is Emily Hampshire, the Stevie. Like, I agree 1,000%. Her character is so well developed, and she's such a complex character. And she's tasked with having to organize the bachelor party for both David and for also getting Patrick. And it's not an easy thing because they're two very different people, which is why their coupling, like their relationship is so beautiful as it just develops over time. So this nice little chic night out, they have these drinks at the Wobbly Elm, which is a fantastic name for a bar. I'd love to go to. That hits David's requirements, everything's fine. But me and my best friend love to do escape rooms. I absolutely love puzzles. I love logic puzzles. And then when I first did my, escape room with my wife over my birthday in the pandemic, we got a chance to do another one. And then I rewatched the episode right after. Like, it just brought me right back to it. The thing about it is, I love how everybody's just so anti-escape room. Everybody hates it. Patrick's eating it up. And all Johnny can think about is waiting for that phone call from this, ex-assistant of his that's got all this money now that they're trying to get. But at the very end, this is where I think you see Annie Murphy really explode in her character development, because you see Alexis start solving every one of the puzzles so fast. She's just whipping through them, and everybody's like, we're never going to make it. In maybe 5 minutes, she gets them through the entire thing. For anybody that's ever done an escape room, that takes an hour at least, because she's whip smart. She plays it dumb the entire time her characters develop seasons 1 through 5, but she is so incredibly smart. It's just like the facade of stupidity that she's put on herself because she's been catered to her whole life. Now that she actually gets to show who she is, when she whipped through that, that's my favorite part of the whole episode. And everybody's just looking at her like, what? And favorite episode, hands down.
All right, we're going to Mary next.
All right. Well, Kyle, you put me to shame. I have to say I have not rewatched it yet again. So it's been a while. So yeah, obviously the best scene for me was simply the best. I mean, I I was crying and laughing at the same time. That was like the best, and just the how it all came together, how they led up to it in the store, and it was phenomenal. But um, I didn't watch season one, but I kind of went through the episodes, just kind of like reading the highlights, trying to get an idea of what they were. Um, and I kind of remember episode 4 where um, Alexis has to do community service, and in the beginning she has to fill out the paperwork, and they're having this whole dialogue about her middle name, like nobody can come up with her middle name. That was hilarious. And and then she meets up again with Mutt, and they go through the whole thing, and she's spying on him with his mom, thinking he's sleeping with her, and whatever. And it's just so yeah, that was pretty funny. I like that one. But
All right, I just thought of another one real quick. When they got invited to the party, and they just assumed that all the women there were lesbians. I thought that was, and I don't want to give things away. I want people to watch other seasons. I'm giving you a little hint about how funny this show is. But let me go to the next person, which is Maggie.
Well, now you're talking about Simply the Best. Which Simply the Best? There's 2 of them. The second one started, I like read background things of, and there's several that I thought of with this, but the Simply the Best that Daniel acts out with Tina Turner singing it was supposed to be funny. And the people on set were crying because it was so emotional, and he was trying to be funny and dancing around him and everything, but it was so sweet and loving that they kind of changed it and said, well, okay, I guess we're going to make this a little bit more serious. And it was so beautiful. And out of nowhere to hear Noah Reed, I think is his name, Patrick, to sing, like spectacular. And the arrangement of that was excellent. The other one that I read about background of, and that I was just looking at, was the second episode is called The Drip. And it starts with a leak on Eugene Levy. And Daniel did that on purpose for his father, because he's a very fastidious person and very neat. And for him to get wet all day long, over and over and over, it was kind of like a little playback on, I'm going to get my dad back. So kind of a fun little tidbit. And we keep talking about it, but Moira's words and her sayings are just spectacular. And to listen to her, how that was written is wonderful. The other thing that other people asked me, and I said, oh, you're going to fall in love with all these characters. And a friend who knew all the people in it said, even Chris Elliott, who is Rolling Schitts. And I said, yes, even Rolling Schitts.
Even Chris Elliott.
Even Chris Elliott. Chris Elliott never plays a nice guy. He plays a jerk every single time. He's so good at it. But in the end, when he defends Johnny with the board of directors in the boardroom, and it's like, oh, he has a soul. He has a heart. It's wonderful. Finally, Chris Elliott, you're showing your true colors. That's good.
I'm the only one that cannot pronounce Moira's name right. I can't pronounce it.
Moira?
I can't even say it at all. I don't know why that is. But Stephanie, you're up next, Stephanie.
Well, it's funny because this whole idea of picking, like a favorite character in the show is like asking me to pick my favorite child, or I feel like I would let somebody down if I picked somebody. But if I had to, if somebody held a gun to my head and said you have to, it's going to be Moira. And it's mostly because of her ability to react from 0 to 100 in split second. And in the very beginning episodes, when anything had happened, she would let out this scream. Like, it was the scream of someone attacking you, or that you're about to die. but it was just like, it was pure and crisp. And every time something happened, she would let out that scream, and it just killed me every time. But it's indicative of her character. It's indicative of how she takes everything from this little itty bitty thing, but it's not. It's so important. It's so so relevant, like the relevant thing. But everything she does, I wouldn't call her dramatic. I think that she truly believes that the world isn't the way it really is. Like she's completely flabbergasted by that whole thought. And that's why her reactions are so extreme. It's gonna be Moira.
All right. Yeah, I can't pronounce it, but I know the scream. And by the way, I was still annoyed by the accent. I just couldn't. The accent just, I don't know. But let me go to Allison.
So I could go on for days about the funny ones, but probably one of my favorites, because I've actually shown this clip to my father, who about fell out of his chair, is when Moira's auditioning for the Jazz Gals. She's doing her scatting is just, I don't know how she got through it. I don't know how anybody did, but my favorite scenes though are the touching ones. Probably my favorite touching scene is when Moira and Johnny are given that gift certificate to go out to dinner, and they run into some old friends, and they're with Jocelyn and Roland, and how these rich friends just keep making fun of where they are and of these people they're with, Roland and Jocelyn, and how they realize it just hits them all of a sudden. This is who their friends really are. This is, to me, it's like the epitome of the moment that they realize that money does not buy happiness, and they really know what true joy and happiness is. And I get like goosebumps even just thinking about that moment. It's probably my favorite moment of the whole series.
Can I ask a question really quick? Do you think maybe that is them suddenly seeing their own reflection?
Ooh, that is you're probably right. Is to see what they were like, and to know what reality is for the rest of the world, and how they just were so oblivious to it, is just, it's a remarkable moment that they care, Yeah.
So in this episode, we're doing basically an overall introduction to the series. In other episodes, we're going to break down season by season. And I thought, and we don't want to give too many spoilers as far as showing the videos, but I do want to talk about one episode real quick. And I thought it'd be cool to tie it into baseball, because most of you that are watching this are here because of the clubs or baseball. So we're going to show you, I got two clips. We're going to show you one clip first of the show, the baseball episode. We're going to discuss it, and I'm going to show you the second clip, and then we'll discuss that too. So Kyle, let's show one of those baseball clips if you can.
Rose?
Whoa.
What are you doing?
Well, what are you doing?
Patrick's forcing me to be on his team for the game today.
Well, Roland and Ronnie wanted me to be on their team for the game today.
Oh my God.
Good. David, keep your glove up. Protect your face.
About a year ago, you had a baseball game.
Yeah.
I came, played in the game. So when we came to writing season 5, I thought, well, why not recreate that moment?
You also had like 4 hits in that game, as I recall.
Well, I'm a hitter.
Came around to score multiple times.
Yeah, I think that the only fudging that we've done in this show is that I'm bad at baseball.
Yeah, that's the only lie here.
I like baseball. I'm a Jays supporter. I love going to the games. But I got to play catch today. I was throwing the ball around. That was good.
That's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
I think we pressured Karen into completely. I think we need to get her to hit more.
Very competitive. Not like a practiced baseball player, you know. You're doing great, Karen. Keep up the good work.
Except it just has to come this way.
Yeah, if you could just hit it over here.
Up. Up and over.
No one ever.
That's good. That's good. So as you all can see, they are a really good, close-knit group. And I think it works well as an ensemble. So I do want to talk a little bit about the group as an ensemble and how well they work together. I'm going to just, for the sake of time, I'm just going to pick on Maggie and Stephanie for this one. So Maggie, and you did a lot of research into this. What do you think about the casting? We just saw how well they are in rehearsal or when they're filming, how cool they are together. What do you think about the casting and the chemistry of this group?
Oh, it's excellent. Even from the beginning, I kind of would look at somebody of why they were chosen for that role. I'm sorry to inform you, I used to be a drama teacher. So I look at different things than other people. So why did they choose Ronnie? Why did they choose Jocelyn? The minor characters, and how they developed them. And because these are mostly Canadians, we don't see them. We haven't seen these other actors. They could be, this is their first time, but it's not. I'm sure they've done other work. And why they were chosen, because they all fit so well together. And I'm totally blanking on Alexis's veterinarian. And why was he chosen? And how they developed. When you watch the beginning and you see some of these characters and they seem so minor, Mutt kind of, he lost out, I think. Like, where did he go? He was eye candy, but but all those other minor characters, it's because they fit so well together that they really did seem like they were from a small town. You can see Ronnie bossing everybody around, and here, she's a good businesswoman too. You really did believe her. So I was very impressed with how those guys were chosen, and then that they stuck together. They were just, but I think that's true with a lot of shows. Some I think they walk away and go, I hope to never see you again. But majority of them, they do become very close and bond. But this one, you could definitely tell that they were all good friends.
All right, Stephanie, what do you think about, as you saw in that clip, how they act on camera, behind camera? What do you think about the chemistry and the bond of this cast?
Well, I think if you kind of look at the history, obviously, I think it was Mary that mentioned, or maybe Allison that mentioned that, Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara have done so many things together, and they're always a couple, and they have clearly found that chemistry for them, and it's very easy. And I think when you surround yourself with, or when you put yourself in a pool with people, you're going to all float to the same level. Does that make sense? And because their chemistry probably felt really, really, really effortless, everybody else sort of fell into this lack of, you don't put up any walls. You feel very comfortable right away. And as a former performer, I also was a performer myself, but you lose the inhibition that comes from naturally from not knowing somebody that you're going to work with, and then having to be showing intimate parts of yourself and having feelings in front of other people. I think that feeds it. So I really think that there's a cornerstone. The cornerstone is the relationship developed between Eugene and Catherine. And I think that just kind of emanated. It just sort of grew out of that.
All right, we're gonna take a little peek at another clip from the baseball episode and come back and talk about it with Mary and Elise. Okay, I'm laughing, and I've seen this 1,000 times, but let me go to Mary and then Elise. Let's talk about David. Mary first. David is just one of my favorite characters. It's just, what do you think about David, Mary?
He is my favorite. I just love him. I don't even know how to like describe him to somebody. You know, on one hand, he seems so like full of himself, thinks he's like better than everybody, and then it comes around to kind of not this episode, but back to that other one I did watch earlier today when he has to give away his clothes, and he's like, "This is all I have. This is me. This is like these clothes are me," and he gets so like emotional about it, and so you see both sides of him, and but yeah, I love his one-liners, and now they have commercials with him in them, and I love those as well. Like he's just hilarious. He's my favorite character, and him and Johnny, they're good.
All right. So Elise, what do you think about David and his partners, their interactions on the show?
Oh, I think they're great. I loved when they brought the partner in for him. It kind of made him go to his more loving side, I guess you might say. I don't know. He was great with Stevie and they had a great friendship, but you knew that wasn't going to last. And it expounded his character so much more. And we saw so much more of him inside and out, his feelings and his, when they opened that store and everything together, he became a businessman and he just became a more full person, I think. And their chemistry was great together. And again, who knew, you didn't know this character and where he came from. So it was like, I'm glad that but what also cracks me up about the whole show in general is here's Alexis and there's two men in town and she's been with both of them. Here's David, a gay man in a small town, and all of a sudden this guy appears and they become life partners. So it's like, but they managed to fit him in perfectly. So I like them together. They were very good.
Yeah, so I thought I would give you all a tough one for the last all panel question, and I'm going to go first actually. And if you could pick any other character, we know it's a great cast as it is now, or a supporting guest or whatever. If you could pick any other character out there on TV or in movies, you got your fantasy booking, and they can make an appearance on this show. Who would it be? And I'm going to have to start. I love Karen Walker on Will and Grace. I think that Karen Walker on Will and Grace, she is one of the most hilarious characters that there is on TV. If I had to pick a character that I would love to see make just a one show appearance, whether it be a neighbor or whatever, or just driving by, I would love to see Karen Walker's interaction with the people, the cast, because I think that they have similar lifestyles. Like Karen had money, that she lost money. They're all sarcastic, and I just think that Karen Walker would be a good guest one day to come on this show if I had to pick somebody. Go ahead, Kyle, and then we'll go to Allison.
So I have to cheat and I'll explain why. Mine has to be a combo of characters. So I absolutely love Schitt's Creek. I'd say it's probably my second favorite comedy of all time. My first, though, is Psych, which was a not super well-known, but an awesomely funny show that used to run on USA back in the day. I would need to see James Roday and Dule Hill reprise their roles as Sean Spencer and Burton Guster. So they play these like zany comedic psychic detectives and faking it the whole time. Sorry for anybody that hasn't seen the show, spoiler alert there. But I feel like there could be a really nice little crossover episode where something happens in Schitt's Creek and Sean is like, rolling through town on some sort of like, blueberry festival or cinnamon festival or something like that, because they're always like, hunting for food. And you could just see the dynamic comedy between the Schitt's Creek cast play really well off of Sean Spencer and Burton Guster. I just feel like it could be a golden opportunity here. anybody watching, anybody listening with any pull, make it happen for this young boy inside of me.
All right, Allison.
All right, I'm gonna have to do a combo of characters as well. Parks and Rec, Andy Dwyer and April Ludgate. Now the Parks and Rec team from Pawnee, Indiana comes to Schitt's Creek to see how they are doing their singles week, because they of course need to also have a fundraiser. And ultimately Andy Dwyer and April Ludgate move their home, and Andy becomes the shoe shinist in City Hall in Schitt's Creek.
Right, okay. Maggie.
Well, it could be any character by John Candy, but I think Del Griffith from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, traveling through, and just have at it. He can do no wrong. He never made a bad movie. I think he'd be fun. And he's SCTV too, so watch SCTV. You'll see John Candy.
Yeah.
All right, Stephanie, it's on you.
It's me. You know, I was like, Allison sort of stole my thunder, but I think that an eternal optimist faced with these folks would be fun to watch. So I think Leslie Knope is who should be interacting with these folks. Just put her kind of into that whole experience, or having to deal with them for some sort of a, you know, town or government thing, and the stuff that they would expect. I think it would push her to such a limit. It would be absolute hilarity.
Okay. Elise.
Oh, you totally caught me on this one. I don't know. I almost would like to see Jimmy Kimmel drive through this town. I know he's not a character, but I could just see him going through this little town called Schitt's Creek, no less, and just like saying, this isn't real. This can't possibly be real. I would just like to see him in that town for 24 hours. I think it would be hysterical. It just reminds me of a skit he would do. I don't know. I could see that. That's what popped into my mind. Jimmy Kimmel driving through Schitt's Creek.
All right, Mary.
All right. Well, you kind of got me too. I couldn't really come up with characters. When it comes to watching TV, I don't watch as much comedy on a regular basis. I'm more into like drama shows, like all the Chicago series I love. So I was like racking my brain, and somebody mentioned, I don't know, but anyway, what came to my mind was a character that maybe is super by the book. Just what I guess what kind of came to mind was Steve Martin from Father of the Bride. Like, you know, you kind of have to do things a certain way, and you can't go out of the, you got to go by the book, and you can't go out of the lines, and that would just really throw him off. He'd be like, man, what is going on in this town, and with his sense of humor, I think it could be kind of funny, but that's what I got.
Okay. All right. So for those of you that are watching and are listening, we have given you a introduction to Schitt's Creek, and we've also given you some other characters that you may have heard of that relate to this. You can check it out. We're going to give you all about a month to go and watch season 1. We're going to run this sort of like a book club where we come back and discuss it. We want everybody that is watching this to be able to follow along. We're going to have some more clips and some more other things and some giveaways. But we definitely want you all to, watch season 1 so you can see what's so good about it and why we like it. Make sure you check in the show notes, and we'll have links to all of our panelists' social media sites, so you can check them out as well. Thank you to everybody. Thank you also to Kyle for helping to show the clips, and we will see you all on the next episode of Rolling Through Schitts. Good night, everybody.